Good evening, Tansei Aneen, everyone. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Daryl Stranger. Members from the Saddle Lake Cree Nation in Alberta released a report yesterday on unmarked graves. It states hundreds of children who attended the Blue Quills Indian Residential School died from contracting tuberculosis from tainted cow's milk. APTN's Chris Stewart has the story, and a warning: some details may be disturbing to some viewers.
The Blue Quills Indian Residential School existed from 1891 until 1970, having changed locations 3 times. Between 1898 and 1931, it operated on the Saddle Lake Cree Nation. Saddle Lake Cree Nation created the Achimewin Opisu Society and was charged with investigating unmarked graves for hundreds of children who never returned from the school. On Tuesday, they revealed the results from their preliminary report. Leah Redcrow is the CEO of the society. She says that tainted, unpasteurized milk resulted in the genocide of the children.
These children died in the hundreds from drinking unpasteurized raw cow's milk. They were transmitted tuberculosis through the unpasteurized raw cow's milk, and they also died of many other fatal milk-borne diseases. This was done recklessly at the hands of the school administrators, who are all now dead, and the Department of Indian Affairs did not impose safety measures for these children.
The cows were on a farm located on the school grounds. The report says the cows were rarely tested, if at all, for disease, and the children got sick very quickly.
The children required a health clearance prior to admission into the school. They were healthy. There was no health concerns with them. Suddenly, a month later, they were infected with tuberculosis and many other fatal milk-borne diseases that led to their premature deaths. How this was happening was the school had a cream separator. All the cream would get loaded into a rail cart and would be shipped off for pasteurization. All the raw skim milk filled with disease was fed to the children.
Nearly 20 years ago, Leah Redcrow says a mass grave was found at this cemetery.
This big tree right behind me is where we found a mass grave that was accidentally excavated in 2004. The mass grave was filled with children-sized skeletons wrapped in white cloth, and we now don't know that the white cloth that they were wrapped in were bed sheets from the residential school.
Eric Large was a school survivor. He is the lead investigator on the report. He talked about finding remains of a child while digging to bury a family member in 2017.
And I came across some bones, some small bones, and I guess I was in shock, first of all. And then I kept on, and then a rib cage with both sides attached to a spine. And it was hard to tell, like if you're in shock, you know. But they looked kind of small, and then the people that were around me, the relatives, they just put them on the side there for now. I kept on, and the next item was a skull.
The Society is working with the Catholic Church and is busy translating thousands of old school documents from French to help identify missing children. Excavations and repatriating the children's remains will be done in the future. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, near Saddle Lake, Alberta.
A First Nation in BC is releasing results from the second phase of its investigation of a former residential school site. Williams Lake First Nation says an additional 66 reflections have been located at the former St. Joseph's Mission Residential School. Officials say the reflections indicate characteristics of potential human remains. Last year, the First Nation announced ground-penetrating radar had located 93 reflections. St. Joseph's Mission is located near Williams Lake and operated from 1886 to 1981. Chief Willie Sellers says thousands of children were forced to attend the school.
For the victims of the St. Joseph's, for the survivors and for their families, we say this: we see you, we have heard your stories, we believe you, and the work we are doing is done for the purpose of bringing the truth to light.
The National Indian Residential School Crisis Line is available for survivors and others who might need support. That number is 1-866-925-4419. Volunteers with the Bear Clan Patrol in Winnipeg searched today for Ashley Shingoose. The 31-year-old went missing on March 11th of last year. They gathered at the West Broadway Neighborhood Center near where she was last seen. Set against the backdrop of multiple murders of Indigenous women, the family of Ashley Shingoose and Winnipeg's Bear Clan Patrol gathered today to search for Shingoose, who went missing on March 11th of 2022. Accused serial killer Jamie Skibicki has been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. The identity of one alleged victim, Buffalo Woman, is still unknown. Winnipeg police said she is believed to have been killed on or about March 15th, 2022. Police told APTN News that they have no new information to share. Kevin Walker with Bear Clan Patrol says the event for Ashley today is intended to raise awareness.
The family being out with us is going to help engage with some of the community members. If there's a language barrier, if people are able to talk in the dialect, we can definitely get some information that way as well.
It's a powerful image, and the family of one of the Indigenous women alleged to have been killed by a Winnipeg serial killer hopes it will draw international attention. APTN's Leanne Sanders reports.
Indigenous women in Canada they're not safe, and people seem to think that we're disposable, that we're trash, that we're not human beings. And sometimes you need to go to extreme measures and make extreme pieces of art just to be able to catch people's attention.
Cambria Harris is the daughter of Morgan Harris. She's been in the spotlight since her mother, Morgan, was identified as one of the alleged victims of 35-year-old Jeremy Skibicki last year. Now Harris is using her graphic design skills to raise money. For her, the artwork evoked many different emotions. The image is now featured on T-shirts being sold as a fundraiser for Camp Morgan at Winnipeg's Brady Road landfill, where one victim was found last June.
It says, in memory of MMIWG2S, and right above that you can see a face and a few hands trying to break out of the ground, which is meant to symbolize being stuck in the Brady landfill and all missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. It's the idea of being stuck underneath the ground and never being found and no one ever looking for them.
It caught the attention of Marie Babisky, also known as Pretty East Van, an Indigenous designer and screen printer who saw Harris's artwork on social media and offered to make the shirts to help out.
I grew up in a very hard street life, and I've survived things that I probably shouldn't have. So I could relate very strongly with these women who were believed to be in the landfill. And I feel like they don't have a voice, and it's heartbreaking to me.
50 shirts have sold so far, and that number is climbing. Orders have come from as far away as Germany, and a Swedish media outlet is interviewing Harris this week. Leanne Sanders, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The Trudeau government wrapped up its cabinet retreat in Hamilton on Wednesday. Ministers had been in the southwestern Ontario city for the past 3 days. During a break Wednesday, Minister of Indigenous Services Patty Hajdu gave APTN News an update on plans to end the long-term boil water advisory on the Oneida Nation of the Thames, which is also located in southwestern Ontario.
But recently, the municipality and the community came to an agreement about the supply of water through a municipal system that will be piped to Oneida of the Thames, and it will be a safe source of fresh water. This is really exciting news for the community. The federal government is fully there to support the costs of building the water pipeline to the community, and we'll be there with the community as they sort out how to best to deliver that then to individual homes.
All right, we have to step aside for a short break. Still to come, a look at those that are keeping the North's most vulnerable fed. Welcome back to APTN National News. Inflation has been hitting Canadians hard at the cash register. In Nunavut, prices for groceries were already sky high before this latest round of increases. Our Kent Driscoll dropped by to visit the people who help keep Iqaluit's most vulnerable fed. This from Iqaluit.
The Kajuktavik Food Center in Iqaluit serves anywhere between 350 and 500 meals a day in a city of just 8,000 people. Those numbers move based on how much money Iqaluit's lower-income residents have on hand.
The trend really depends on the income assistance that is available to community members. So during the pandemic, we saw numbers drop quite significantly when CERB became available. And then last October, when CRB came to an end, we saw our numbers start to increase. And then when inflation started to rise in January, ever since we've seen numbers increase substantially month after month.
Inflation means people don't have enough money for food. It also means that it costs the food center more to feed people.
Cost of food has increased for us this year by about 50%. Shipping rates have increased by about 45%. To keep up with such a huge increase in demand, we've had to hire multiple more people, so our labor costs have also increased quite substantially. And at a time where, we see this in the nonprofit world, that typically when there is economic stress, it affects the amount of donations that are going into the charity sector.
High demand and increasing costs are a tough combo for any nonprofit. Kajuktavik is stretching to meet demand because that's what they're used to.
That's the thing with nonprofits, is that our financial situation really changes very significantly from year to year. It depends on contribution agreements. It depends on, we could develop a great partnership with a foundation, but they're only interested in funding us for 1 year.
It isn't only a Nunavut problem. Increased social stresses have seen food banks in trouble all across the country.
Ultimately, what we've come to see in the last year is we're seeing food banks around the country close or not being able to distribute food for months and months because they've run out of funding, is that Canada's response to food insecurity has been to rely on the charity sector, and that is unsustainable.
They're going to try and sustain the unsustainable here at Kajuktavik. Given their successful track record, odds are they pull it off. Because if they can't, that's 350 to 500 meals a day that Iqaluit residents won't be able to eat. And that's unsustainable too. Kent Driscoll, APTN National News, Iqaluit.
The production of minerals used in batteries for electric vehicles is currently dominated by China, but Quebec wants to cut into that domination, as one mining company wants to start digging on the territory of Pessamit First Nation. But Pessamit wasn't aware of the magnitude of their plans. A story by Shushan Pécan.
Super pleased today to start this year by announcing to you the great PEA result we announced this morning on the Watnan project.
On January 10th, Nouveau Monde Graphite, a graphite mining company, announced they intend to build the biggest graphite mine in the world on Innu territory. This news took the Pessamit First Nation by surprise.
Mais il y a des collègues qui en ont pris connaissance. Je sais qu'entre autres, une m'avait interpellé et dit, Marie, ça n'a pas d'allure. Il y a quand même, c'est de 52 à 500 000 tonnes. C'est elle qui me l'avait souligné. À partir de là, c'est comme, c'était vraiment gros, là, trop gros.
In 2017, Pessamit signed a moratorium of understanding with a company called Maison Graphite for the Uatnan project. But that was for the production of 52,000 tons. Since then, Maison Graphite has partnered with Nouveau Monde Graphite. When it was revealed that the mine's production would be 10 times more than expected, Pessamit canceled a meeting with Nouveau Monde. The Innu Council of Pessamit confirmed it did not receive a copy of the preliminary economic outlook beforehand, and added that this project has not been and is not currently the object of consultation between Nouveau Monde Graphite and the Council. The Uatnan mining project will be on the shore of the Manicouagan Reservoir near the Manic 5 Dam on the site of the Lac Guéret Graphite Project.
Qui était développé par Mason Graphite. Donc, on vient reprendre un peu les paramètres miniers, puis on réimagine un projet dans les conditions de marché actuelles. Donc, c'est une mine de graphite pour l'industrie, pour desservir la production des batteries pour les véhicules électriques.
Quebec wants its share of the electric car battery minerals industry, all while affirming its electricity is affordable for this type of exploitation.
Bon. Alors, on le voit là sur la carte.
Nouveau Monde says market conditions have changed since the 2017 MOU, hence the increase in output. Despite the difference between 50,000 and 500,000 tons to be mined, negotiations between Pessamit and Nouveau Monde Graphite are still underway.
On s'est déplacé dans la communauté de Pessamit cet automne. En effet, malheureusement, il semble avoir eu un malentendu, puis on en est bien navré.
Oui, les liens ne sont pas totalement coupés. J'aimerais maintenir la relation positive. Autrement, je sais qu'il y a eu beaucoup d'explications, puis M. Desaulniers m'a quand même rassuré là, évidemment, il était très peiné de la situation.
The parameters have changed, but the discussions continue. For now, the Iwatnan project is planned for 2030. A story by Shushan Bacon, APTN National News, Wendake, Quebec.
All right, it's time to step aside one final time. A look at a film detailing the cedar tree's importance is next. Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. Our dedicated viewer and regular contributor Gail French sent in this stunning shot of some hoarfrost. She took the picture from her porch on Chippewas of the Thames Territory in southern Ontario. It's a beautiful thing to see right outside your home. Thanks so much for that, Gail. If you have a great photo to share, you can send it to share@aptn.ca, and you can also tag APTN News on Instagram. And here is tomorrow's weather. As always, we're starting on the East Coast, 6 degrees in Charlottetown and 0 in St. John's. Minus 15 with some snow in Happy Valley Goose Bay, and minus 21 in Kuujjuaq. Minus 3 in Quebec City, and minus 7 in Val d'Or. The winter storms in Toronto, minus 1 in snow, and 0 in London. Minus 12 in snow in Wawa, and minus 11 in Thunder Bay. Snow and minus 28 in Churchill and minus 17 in Thompson. Minus 9 in Winnipeg and 0 in Brandon. Plus 3 in Regina and plus 4 in Saskatoon. Minus 7 in Buffalo Narrows and snow and minus 18 in Stony Rapids. As we make our way west to minus 10 in Fort Chipewyan and 4 degrees in Peace River. 4 degrees in Edmonton and 3 degrees in Calgary. 5 in Vancouver and 5 in Bella Coola. 6 degrees in Sandspit and minus 1 in Fort Nelson. 4 degrees in Whitehorse and minus 19 in Old Crow. Some snow and minus 20 in Norman Wells and minus 17 in Yellowknife. Minus 24 in Fort McPherson and minus 28 in Colville Lake. Minus 33 in Baker Lake and minus 33 in Clear in Arviat. Minus 27 in Resolute, and minus 25 in Iqaluit. A film exploring the importance of the cedar tree to coastal First Nations will debut at the Victoria Film Festival next month. The director and producer of A Cedar is Life shared some discoveries while making the documentary. APTN's Lee Wilson has more.
A Cedar is Life follows Harold Joe, the director from Cowichan Tribes, as he discovers more about cedar. The documentary combines stories of elders, carvers, medicine makers, and basket weavers from Vancouver Island to Haida Gwaii on BC's coast.
This tree has been nothing but that, and more so, but, giving life, Calvin McNeil, we're born out of cedar, we later rest in cedar. How true is that? That is very true, because as grave digging, I've maybe laid 10 people in a cedar canoe, a small canoe that could hold the body, and in the ground they go.
Leslie Bland is the documentary's producer. He's been a friend of Harold Joe's for over a decade. In the past, the two have collaborated on Indigenous-focused stories, such as Zuhalem and Dust and Bones. Bland says the team's success in storytelling is being able to build trust with communities.
Not only is it being honest and truthful to what is being communicated, so there's trust in if I share something with you, it'll be handled with respect. There's that. Then secondly, they look at the film, they go, that's pretty good. Like it's of good quality. And I think that's part of it.
Cedar is the most strong, powerful medicine that we have.
For Harold Joe, he shared that after hearing from elders and artists how hard it is to get old growth, it made him reflect and feel guilt about his time working in forestry in the 80s and 90s. But he is proud of his role preserving culture and stories through film, and encourages aspiring filmmakers and storytellers to reach out to their communities.
Reach out to your people. Reach out to your community, your elders, here in Cowichan, we're losing them a lot. So my importance is, as an individual, is to try to document and preserve it quickly as I can, as fast as I can.
A Cedar's Life will make its Canadian debut in early February at Victoria Film Festival. Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Kitimat.
This week on APTN In Focus, we put Indigenous representation on and off the big screen in focus. From actors and producers, we look at the impact Indigenous people have on and off the screen. Here's a look at our episode.
In entertainment, in theater, film, arts, we can get stuck on the funders wanting to only talk about the traumatic events that are happening in Indigenous culture. Yeah. And a lot of people have evolved from that in the last couple decades, and now new artists are coming up being like, I want to focus on things that are beautiful. I want to focus my things on things that I've done amazing in my life. I want to go in a new focus and talking about culture or arts or music. I want to talk about other subjects. Mm-hmm. So it's really put a pressure on people who do the funding, being like, we can't always focus on the negative, and so a lot more art that's coming out is very beautiful, very positive, healing, or in even different subjects. Explain to us a little bit about, the documentary and what you guys are hoping to bring with it.
Well, I think a renewed understanding of Idle No More and the importance of it too today. I mean, I think people have an impression, certainly the Canadian public probably has an impression that Idle No More was just a finite time. It was just like, oh, they had this big thing and then it was done and it was over. And I just think it's a reminder of all of the things that changed, all of the things that happened because of Idle No More. I think it's really important people see it just to sort of remind us of how important a time that was in Canadian history.
Most of the time they've never heard of Nelyuk Night and they don't know about our tradition in Labrador, so I wanted to make a short film to explain better about what the tradition is and how it looks.
And just before we go, a clarification on a story we brought earlier about missing woman Ashley Shingoose. There is no confirmed link between her case and that of the woman known as Buffalo Woman. The Shingoose family and Winnipeg police have yet to link the cases. We will bring you more on this tomorrow. I'm Daryl Stranger for all of us here. Thank you very much for joining us, Miigwech, and have a great night.